a Sector 2 sandwich in that Sectors 1 and 3 are lots of long straights, lots of full throttle stuff. And Sector 2 is not exactly slow, but it is the twisty bits. So you've got a weird lopsidedness there, just as we had at Silverstone, but a different challenge, but same concerns that there isn't enough energy to go round.
Yeah, the Silverstone thing, obviously there was a lot of fear-mongering, if you like, pre-race. Lewis Hamilton mentioning that the drivers' WhatsApp group chat was abuzz with chat having been on the simulator saying, oh, it's going to be awful for these cars. And it wasn't great, but as you say, there was a kind of feeling that it wasn't as bad as expected. Maybe there was a bit of drivers kind of towing the PR line there too, but certainly you could see obvious energy starvation on the run from kind of Luffield all the way pretty much to the club chicane. So Spa, obviously you mentioned it's a lopsided track and you've got that middle sector with all the twisty bits in it. Is that going to be enough in combination with the other things that are put in place in terms of straight line modes, etc., to mitigate this energy challenge? Or is just the sheer length of this track going to mean it's going to be the worst bits of Silverstone, but times a factor of 2, 5, 10 or whatever?
Yeah, I can't say exactly what the mathematics are in terms of how worse it is, but yeah, ultimately you can mitigate the problem. You can't eliminate it. So some action has been taken. Originally, there was going to be an 8 megajoule recharge limit for a qualifying lap. That's dropped to 7 megajoules. Now, that means that you're going to have to rely less on lift-off, harvesting or super clipping when you're flat chat, but you're fully engaging the MGUK to harvest. That's a very power sapping exercise. So they've tried to calibrate it to minimise the amount of that lift-off or super clipping you have to do on a qualifying lap. There'll still maybe be a couple of seconds, but a lot less than if there was 8 megajoules. And basically that middle sector, which is the twisty bit, you aren't going to be deploying very much at all there, because you really need to have as much of that power as you possibly can for that long run. There's basically 2 kilometres of full throttle pretty much from La Source to Les Combes, and then at the end of the lap it's well over 1.5 kilometres from Stavelot at the bottom of the hill up to the bus stop, and there's 2 straight line modes there that you need to deploy through. So there have been mitigations. It's not quite as bad as it looked like it was going to be, because at one stage there was talk pre-season about having no straight line mode from Stavelot all the way to the bus stop chicane, which would have been power sappingly mundane to say the least. But now there are 2 straight line zones through there, so you can have your active aero deployed, then you basically go through the area around Blanchimont, and then you have another blast again to the final chicane. So they've tried to just bias it a little bit so the equation isn't quite as painful, but you're still going to have a lot of the lap where you cannot deploy maximum power, which would be full V6 power plus the full MGUK power, and that will be frustrating. But the key thing is how much you're having to do it in the corners, and at least that has been mitigated, so they're not going to be kind of crawling around every turn at a painfully slow pace.
Well, that's a relief to hear. I mean, it sounds like from what they've done with the tweaks to straight line mode through the final sector, obviously that kinks quite a bit before you even get to Blanchimont. That probably is going to work fine. The run through turn 1, Eau Rouge up to the Kemmel Straight, that seems a bit more difficult. You've got some heavy braking at least into turn 1 to get some energy back into the battery, and maybe they'll use Eau Rouge as a little bit of a charging station for the Kemmel Straight. That bit to me seems tricky. But then once you get to sector 2 and you're into recharge mode and not using full power, obviously there is one really amazing driving challenge in that sector, Pouhon. That's really the kind of proper F1 corner now of that circuit, although everybody talks about Eau Rouge. Is that corner going to be the same driving challenge as we've been used to, or is it going to be completely neutered by the need to get energy back into that battery for sector 3?
It's probably the corner that will be most affected, in that it looks like it's going to be a full throttle one. Even on a qualifying lap last year, there was a need for a very sort of slight lift and take a little bit of speed off, but some of that you can do through your super clipping or whatever. So again, it's not a disaster, but I think Pouhon is the one you'll hear the most complaints about. But we will also see exactly what shakes out when they start running, because they do all these simulations, and then there's a few real world things to take into account. And of course, Spa is a little bit complicated as well, because you've got a lot of uphill areas as well and downhills, which does make a difference. As you said, you could super clip through Eau Rouge, but you're also going uphill there, so you've already got gravity sapping what you're doing. So there's some interesting trade-offs, and it's important to remember it's a three-dimensional track in terms of there being that elevation, which could have a little bit of an impact on things. But the thing to remember is that on a qualifying lap, well, on any lap, even if your pack is full, your battery pack is full, that's basically 11.4 seconds of deployment. And basically from from La Source to Les Combes, you're on that full throttle for longer than 11.4 seconds. So that kind of illustrates the challenge.
Yeah, very difficult one to make work. I suppose other things to consider are to do with car setup. This is normally a track where it's difficult to pitch your downforce levels correctly, but do you anticipate with this extreme energy starvation that everybody's going to trim their wings out as much as possible and just try to go for the maximum straight line speed for the minimum drag?
Very likely, yes, because that's the best approach when you're dealing with this energy-starved regime. And to be fair, there was a time when Spa was really a proper setup trade-off, and you'd see, such and such is super quick in the middle sector, but they're a bit slow in sectors 1 and 3. But actually, over time, it's become more and more a lean it out as much as you can, because that's where the lap times ended up being. So this isn't a dramatic change, but it's more likely to be, at the lower end of the spectrum for what you do at Spa. It's interesting because the level of downforce you have will affect how much of an effect there is in terms of having to harvest. Because, for example, if you were to go with kind of a more old school medium downforce level, you might find yourself in a corner like Pulon actually being sat within the grip limit. And so by grip limited, it means basically when the car is limited in terms of how much power you can put down and how you're driving it by the available grip. But that would make it a bit more power limited. But I think with the downforce levels people are going to be running, that makes that less likely. So actually there's some aspects of the way setups evolved anyway, and the setups you'd want with this power unit and car package, that mean that that's partly baked in as a mitigation. So it's going to be there, and there will be teams looking very, very closely about exactly how much downforce they want to run. But my expectation would be that it'll be lower downforce for the most part. But it would be great if we see some variation as well, because that always makes things interesting. But everybody will come down to very similar solutions in terms of that wing level, obviously allowing for the differences from car to car.
Yeah, there's a good chance, speaking of variation, of our first wet race of the season as well. I think, having looked at the forecast before we head to Spa, there is some chance of rain, particularly towards the business end of the weekend. So we could be seeing these 2026 cars with their aggressive power delivery trying to be tamed on a wet Spa Francorchamps. That could be quite fun. Obviously, we've been quite negative in this discussion because of the comments that I mentioned at the top of the show, and just a general feeling that we're just always talking about mitigation and problems with this formula. But I want to put the devil's advocate side of this to you, because there's an interesting quote from Gabby Bortoletto, who was asked about Spa and the challenges of the racing and the general difficulties with these cars post Silverstone. And he said, "I don't think it lost the magic of the sport. I think we should turn the page. We cannot spend 3 years talking about the same problem. The cars are still fun to drive. It's different. We need to adapt to that." What do you think of the point he's making? Because it's kind of at odds with how most drivers feel at the moment.
Yes, I mean, these are still difficult cars to drive. They're still very, very quick and all of those things. So it's not like they're driving around in a bunch of cars they've just taken from the nearest hire car company or something. So it's not that. But I think it is important to talk about it for several reasons. Firstly, because it's at the heart of understanding what they're trying to do in terms of performance. This is going to be a huge focus in terms of how you get the lap time, both over a qualifying lap and over a race lap. And of course, on a race lap, you have 8.5 megajoules of harvesting allowed. So a very, very different challenge to have that steady state running, and you can harvest more over a lap as well. So that there's different things going on, and that's central to understanding what's happening. So of course we have to talk about it, we have to understand it. Now, we know that the balance is wrong. And we know that the balance is wrong because, one, everybody's talked about it from the moment they first drove these cars, and in fact long before they ever did when they were driving them in the simulator, but also because changes are being made. We're going to see changes in 27 and 28 that are changing the balance of the V6 to the electric motor, etc. So that's clearly a problem. Now, we shouldn't talk about it in terms of, is it destroying F1? Okay, they've understood the problem, they're taking some action, good. But it is also important in terms of understanding the driving and the setup challenge. So I don't really think it's about moving on and turning the page, because it's not just about griping and complaining about it because you don't like it. It's about understanding. And that's the thing that everybody has to remember. This power regime, the way you harvest, the way you deploy, is absolutely critical to lap time. It's overpowering many other traditional driving elements. So the way the deployment works, you can't just pretend it's not there. This is performance in F1 right now. I don't think that's the way ideally it should be. There's still obviously driver skill in influencing that, but there's also elements where you drive a corner better and actually you're going to pay the price. There's still a reward for being more consistent on a qualifying lap than being on that kind of ragged edge and just sort of dancing on that tightrope, putting in those sort of hero laps, the Charles Leclerc style. So there are still problems. We should still talk about them, but we also shouldn't overstate them. It's still Spa. It's still a great circuit. There's still a great challenge, and it could be really interesting come the race. Say what you like about the yo-yo racing. It does mean cars are swapping positions, and we will see things happening in the race. So there's potentially some benefits there.
Today, we're gonna learn some iconic soccer skills. Follow me.
The rainbow.
Ladies and gentle gamers, the Hypixel Skyblock Alpha just opened with a brand new update for beginners, as well as the healing revamp, which is back, and some new items related to the harvest feast. So if you guys end up enjoying, make sure to drop a like, smash the sub button, consider using code 2BD in the Hypixel store, and let's jump into it. First off, if we head over to the hub, there are now the beginner sacks, which we will notice whenever we talk to some NPCs. So let's start off by heading over to the mining area. We're going to talk to this mining merchant, and you'll notice he now sells the beginner mining sack. If you have the attribute that increases your sack size, then it holds 704, but for actual beginner players, this is going to hold 640 of each item. If we go ahead and buy one and open it up, you'll notice it's just vanilla stuff, so it doesn't hold like mithril or titanium, gemstones, anything like that. This is really meant just to be for early game players who are just now joining into Skyblock and don't really need to be thrown all of these new items and things. So you can hold all of the vanilla stuff that you'll be getting early on, and they are in various collections. For example, this mining sack is at coal level 2. There's also the beginner agronomy sack, which is at wheat level 2, so on and so forth. So there's that one there at the mining NPC. If we head over to the farming area, right here, I believe the farm merchant sells the beginner agronomy sack. Then we can head over to the foraging section, and if I had to guess, I would say the lumberjack here, or the lumber merchant, I mean over here, this guy, he's going to be selling the beginner foraging sack. So you can get your different sacks here whenever you're starting a new profile, whether it's bingo or just an actual new profile, and you need some new stuff to be able to hold your gear. There's also been a lot of adjustments when it comes to accessories. So if we just look at our accessory bag right now, you'll notice it has changed from magical power to accessory power, just to make it a little less confusing. And if we go ahead and open this up, you'll notice each item in here is now going to have an accessory power stat. So you can see my freshly baked heirloom here is giving 22 accessory power. If we go to one of the later pages, the magnetic talisman is giving 8, and you can just see every single talisman, how much accessory power they're giving. There's also this section here at the bottom of the accessory bag to kind of explain how to get more accessory bag slots. So maybe this question won't be asked in my live stream chat every 2 minutes. And they have also changed redstone collection now quite a bit. If we look at level 9, it maxes at 250,000, and that is the max level. I believe there used to be like 17 levels or something ridiculous of redstone, so now it does max out at level 9. And also, you should be able to get your personal compactors a bit easier. You can see you unlock the 4,000 at 5k collection, the 5,000 at 25k, the 6,000 at 100k, and the 250k for the 7,000. In other news, if we head over to collections, you'll notice, actually, we're not even going to go here. Let's just talk about it. Slash recipe for crappie. You'll notice this is the crappie armor. Anything from crappie and above has not changed, but early game farming progression is different now. So if we click on this, you'll notice you now have the tater helmet instead of the melon helmet, which is required to make the crappie helmet. So you'll now need this to upgrade that. And that is just the revamped name of melon armor. If we go ahead and go into our farming collections now, head to potato collection, because it's not in melon collection anymore. It's called tater for a reason. There is the tater helmet. So you can craft the entire tater armor with the potato collection level 9, you'll need 100,000 potatoes to get this. And you'll need a ton of potato to craft it. And in order to craft it, you also need the sprout helmet, which if we go and look at that, this one is going to be from Carrot Collection. It is unlocked at 50,000 Carrot Collection. And in order to craft that, you're going to need the Haymaker helmet. If we go over to Wheat Collection here, the Haymaker gear is unlocked at 2,500 Wheat Collection. So right there you have it, the whole Haymaker set. If we click on that, you need the Farmhand helmet, which you get at Wheat Collection level 2. So you only need 100 collection for that. So it is a lot more streamlined progression. It doesn't just start with melon gear at farming 25 now. You can start using these sets a lot earlier on and just slowly upgrading them. You don't have to worry about whether you got an overgrown grass and should you apply it now or should you apply it later. You can go ahead and apply it immediately onto whichever armor set and upgrade it into the next one later on. Now we got some changes with the Harvest Feast event. A lot of the recipes have been adjusted related to that, as well as some new recipes being added and some revamps to some items inside of that I'm not gonna lie, y'all aren't gonna like. This is the new Orchid Mantis pet. In order to craft it, you need an enchanted egg as well as 8 floral gelatin. And its first ability converts every 3 speed you have above 100 into a certain amount of farming fortune based on the level. But you can see at the top there, it does give Overbloom. So this is going to be a good way to get Overbloom on a pet before you're able to get to Rose Dragon. To upgrade it, you'll need 16 floral gelatin as well as 250,000 coins. And you can see at uncommon, it gives twice the amount of farming fortune per level. Then to upgrade it to rare, you need 32 floral gelatin. And at rare, it gets the Intelligent Specimen perk, which gives you more farming tool XP. At epic, it gives you double the amount of farming XP as it did at rare. Finally, upgrading it to legendary, it's going to cost you a stack of floral gelatin as well as 2.5 million coins. And at legendary, it gets the Orchid Nectar perk, which gives you a chance to find jelly or plant matter whenever you're farming. And these are the difference between level 1 and level 100. So at fully max level 100, you'll get 1 farming fortune per 3 speed over 100, gain 20% more farming tool XP, have 15 base Overbloom, by the way. And for Orchid Nectar, you get a 0.02% chance to find jelly or plant matter whenever you're farming. So this pet is going to be very, very nice for Overbloom before you get to Rose Dragon, and you'll be able to level up some farming tools a lot easier. Next up, we have the new Reforged Stone Blooming Thorns, which applies the Thorny Reforge when combined with your equipment. So this is not for armor, it's for equipment. It will give you Overbloom and Farming Fortune, and it gives you an additional Overbloom per tier of thorns on all of your armor pieces. So if we just go ahead and grab 4 of these from Centauri, I'll go ahead and pop on my Helianthus, which is right here. We have our Blossom gear. I'm going to take that off. And this doesn't give any Overbloom. Just for reference, at the moment, I'm currently getting 143 Overbloom. We go in here and apply this thing to all 4 pieces though, with 0 thorns levels on. I have no thorns on my armor here. I'm now getting 148 Overbloom, so that's 5 extra. And then it only upgraded to Thorns 3. For some reason, you can get Thorns 4 with the Cactus item, but Centauri hasn't done that. So that's going to be a little bit unfortunate, but even without that, we're getting 152.8 Overbloom, and we should be getting an extra 0.4 per piece. So that'd be an extra 12, which would get us all the way up to 154 total Overbloom. So with the whole setup and this bonus, you can get up to 11 total Overbloom boost, which will be really nice for those of us who still have yet to drop a wild strawberry die. But that actually isn't the only way you can get Overbloom with this update. If we do /feast, they have also added this feast burger with a side of deep fries. It gives you 1 Overbloom. You can consume it up to 5 times. In order to craft it, you'll need all of this stuff. So it is quite a few items, but they're low-key kind of cheap right now on the main server, so I doubt they're going to go up a crazy amount. After a couple Harvest Feasts, it'll even back out. But with that and the other Overbloom, you should be able to get a total of like 16 extra Overbloom now, which does kind of make up for one of the nerfs that they did with this update. If we look at our farming chips here, you'll notice Rare Finder chip now gives 50 Overbloom instead of 60 at its max level. So they took away 10 Overbloom with this and then added 16 of it through other areas. So there is 6 extra Overbloom you can get with this update. It's just you lost 10 at base. If we head over to the Harvest Feast NPC right here, you will notice whenever we look at the milestones now, you do get carnival tickets for each of these. And more important, this isn't just a Grand Feast thing. This is normal Harvest Feast and Grand Feast. There will be 4 crops in season. So no matter what the rotation ends up being, it's not going to be like the first few Skyblock years of Harvest Feast where Moonflower just didn't show up a few times. Now every single crop should show up at least once in the Harvest Feast. Now we have to have a sad conversation. You'll notice back here, this is where my disco destination used to be. Unfortunately, you can see it has been changed. It is now called a groovy nozzle. You can right click to open, and I'm gonna pick this up because this is different now. You can see after I picked it up, we got all of our vinyls back, and that is because they have completely changed how this item works. The groovy nozzle, which is the new version of the Buzzy Bee destination, can now be used at Skymart to upgrade the Juicy Sprayinator to the Groovy Sprayinator. So basically, they got rid of the disco destination, so you're not going to be able to guarantee that your pests spawn in one certain location. Apparently, this was causing issues with macroers just being able to easily get all of their pests, which was kind of the whole point of pests in the first place, was to make that not the case. So now you will notice in the pest section of the Skymart, there's not just the base Sprayinator, there are 2 upgrades to it. So there's the Juicy Sprayinator, which you can see as the difference from the base one is going to make sprays last 45 minutes instead of 30. Also, your Juicy Nozzle bonus will give you 50 bonus pest chance while in a sprayed plot instead of just 25. And pests are twice as likely to spawn in sprayed plots. So you are still going to have an easier time farming with the Sprayinator than you would without it. Similar to how you would have had an easier time with a disco destination than without it, but you do actually have to go out of your way to go pick up pests now instead of just teleporting around. And there is the maxed out version of this item, which gives 60-minute sprays, as well as 75 bonus pest chance while in a sprayed plot, and 2.5 times more likely to have pests spawn in the sprayed plots. Now you can see it does cost quite a bit of copper to upgrade these as well. You need 11,000 total copper to upgrade your Sprayinator. And you'll also notice you need the Juicy Nozzle. So the Groovy Nozzle is the new name for the disco destination. So that is this. It has all the same items required as the disco destination did. If we look for the Juicy Nozzle, this thing is just going to cost enchanted melon slices. Very, very cheap, so it'll be pretty easy to get the second tier of your Sprayinator, but that third tier is still going to be pretty pricey. So this is definitely going to be a QOL nerf, but it should make the macroers hopefully have a harder time macroing, and you won't have to downtime to spray as often. Plus, you do get a bit more bonus pest chance, so you'll be able to spawn more pests. It definitely hurts, but hopefully the money per hour won't be ridiculously affected. If you are an Iron Man player or just a normal player and some of these prices on some of these items have gone down a ton in price on the main server, you will notice you can now sell them to NPCs. So if you do have an excessive amount and you're on Iron Man, that's the main thing that this is going to help with. But if you're a classic profile and the price is really low on Bazaar, they do sell for 50k a piece to NPC. You will also notice actually on the Overbloom stats, they have buffed the Lucky Clovers to give the same amount of Overbloom as they give Magic Finds. So that is actually a bit more Overbloom added in as well, another 6. So there's a total of 12 Overbloom added if we include that, as well as these other Overbloom items we talked about earlier. There is this Super Jacob Entertainment system, which is kind of a revamp of the Jacob's Participation Medal, which was just a minion fuel. So they changed it from a minion fuel into a minion upgrade, basically. And this is the requirement to craft it. You do need a Plant Boy Advance, so I wouldn't be shocked if those end up going up in price on the main server, because they are kind of a pain in the butt to grow, but we'll just have to see. The price of overpriced drinks, going along with the name, they made it a bit more expensive, sorta. So it used to cost 14 Agordians, now it only costs 8, but you do need designer coffee beans, so it costs more items, but I don't know, it may low-key have gone down in price actually, which would be kind of ironic since it's supposed to be overpriced. Finally, we have some other pest changes or pet changes. We talked about the mantis already, but if we look in here, the elephant has had some changes to it. It now gives 20% Sawdust while farming instead of 15%. It also has 50 base farming fortune up at the top. You can see I do have a green bandana, so it's buffed by quite a lot, but the base farming fortune number is now 50. Moving on to Mushroom Cow, they changed some of the perks. They removed the Efficient Mushrooms perk, which was pretty terrible anyway. It made mushroom and mycelium minions work faster on your island. They have changed it so that they added the Bovine Blessing perk. You now have a 0.02% chance to find tasty cheese or dung when farming. You'll notice that kind of perk is going to be a bit of a theme here. Remember, the mantis had the chance to find jelly or plant matter, while the bee has a chance to find honey jars. So that basically should make it so you have a chance to get every single spray other than compost. So compost, you're still going to have to use your composter to make, but every other spray you should be able to get more likely if you want to use the pet to drop them more off. But this right here, by the way, is the new menu for the sprayinator. So instead of having to spam left click until it gets to the right spray, you can just open the menu and click on it. And this also shows you how to get the upgraded nozzles, which is pretty fancy. Again, for newer players, this is going to help out. That's all with farming. We do once again have the healing revamp here on the alpha. If y'all didn't see the original post, basically Vitality is going to work like mana now for your healing item. So you can see where I'm getting all my Vitality from. It's a lot less than we used to have originally. You get 100 at base, but whenever you use healing items, for example, my Estrella, you lose a certain amount of Vitality. And some of these items will also cost mana. Since Estrella isn't only a healing item, it does also cost mana because it does some damage and stuff. But you can see when I right click with it, I do lose 50 vitality right there. And this is the list of changes that they've made to different mobs and things. You can see there is a lot here. So they've done a ridiculous amount of adjustments. I just kind of skimmed through this. The biggest thing I noticed, everyone that's not Cata 50 is now stronger on the alpha. They've also nerfed health and damage of regular mobs, which again should help out with the healing stuff. Nerfing the HP is kind of interesting. I wouldn't think they would need to do that, but the damage has been nerfed on top of that. The damage part definitely needs to happen in combination with the healing nerf that's happening here, but the nerfed HP from them is pretty interesting. So dungeons might be a little bit of a breeze. I don't know if they need to do that. Again, this is alpha, so they're going to be doing some testing. Whatever you guys think, if you want to hop on the server yourself, feel free to jump on and test it out for yourself. But there is so much stuff here, and I have plenty of things to do on the main server right now, so I'm not going to go too much into it. You can see the adjustments here for health cost items. They used to be percentage, so Glimmer would cost 25% of your health, and now it does 800 total damage to you instead of a percentage. And same thing for all these guys down here. So everything's going to cost a specific amount. I don't think anybody's using Lifeline here in 2026, but if you were, Staff of the Volcano now does this number, 1,000 total damage instead of 50%. So thank goodness Lifeline isn't a thing, because you can see I currently have 6,000 HP. So I would have to hit that thing 6 times in order to get the Lifeline proc to go crazy. Or I guess it'd probably just be 5, but you get the idea. Anyways, that is everything with the update on the alpha at the moment. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I will catch you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, and God bless.
YouTube Premium is ad-free YouTube and exclusive access to all things VIP, so you can superfan from your sofa. YouTube Premium, it's way more than ad-free. Try 1 month on us.
Mercedes have taken every Grand Prix pole this year, yet Ferrari have won 2 of the last 3 races. Yeah, if Mercedes loses both of these titles, it's their own fault. Sure, Ferrari aren't leading either championship and they haven't built the fastest car, but despite that, I think they've become the hero of this season because they've made Mercedes' speed expensive. And what do I mean by that? Well, consider what Mercedes have done. 7 wins from 9 Grand Prix thus far. Although, as we saw during Silverstone, Lewis did take a cheeky sprint pole, and I was there for it, and the atmosphere was amazing. But we'll get to why that one should get people around Brackley that little bit concerned, even though Antonelli was able to overtake Lewis for the sprint itself and then take that win. In terms of the performance ceiling of the W17, it is still the highest, and they do have a fairly comfortable lead in the Constructors, and Antonelli is leading the championship, albeit by a considerably cut down amount from when we were racing around Monaco. But I think it is safe to say that as of now, the reliability of Mercedes is absolutely awful. I've seen plenty of moments when procedural errors have really undone the entire organization. And again, I'm not talking about this all being on Kimi or George. The stuff that we have seen from the pit crew and in terms of racing operations themselves are enough to make you think, do they want to win this World Championship or not? Because remember, back in the day when Mercedes were dominating, they didn't necessarily have the best pit stops. And then when things really fell down in 22 and 23, their pit stop times in top 4 were by far the worst. I've had this feeling ever since the Barcelona shakedown. Something about the W17 wasn't quite right. Yeah, it was very solid in terms of getting the laps in when they were working, but there were plenty of moments when reliability did scupper themselves, and the Ferrari-powered teams, oh, they were raking in the miles, especially Haas. So yeah, right now I'm feeling like I'm about to pick up that phone. Because all Ferrari have to do right now is just be close enough. They don't have to go on a tear of their own right now. They just have to be getting that little bit closer each time to be able to really turn the screw on Mercedes and maybe expose even more faults or mistakes or maladies. Yeah, I can't prove most fans want Mercedes to fail, but my impression is that many still carry the memory of 8 consecutive constructors titles from 2014 through 2021, and I will admit myself, I barely watched those first 2 years of Mercedes dominance. Life got in the way, sure, but there wasn't really much incentive to catch up either. Antonelli, though, does complicate the usual villain story here because he's an Italian teenager who's visibly learning while leaving the championship, and a title for him would feel like a startling individual arrival rather than just yet another coronation. My personal trainer is Italian, and he told me himself that he and his Italian friends and family are very torn about who to support right now. The shot of Kimi posing with Ferrari mechanics around the Goodwood Festival of Speed would only further complicate matters. Russell winning the world title and why many others are not so keen on seeing that might be down to an institutional thing, because for many people, they consider George to be the establishment, an establishment Mercedes driver, only reminding people of that particular spell of dominance, although it must be said, Kimi has actually been part of Mercedes' wheelhouse for more of his career than Russell was. But I think that frustration right now only is a thing because Ferrari have gotten closer and closer and closer as of late. And they're now starting to win races with both of their drivers. It's not just Lewis winning races. Now we've got Charles getting in on the act. And besides, I think Ferrari winning races, it just carries so much more weight than Mercedes winning races. I don't really need to explain that. I think you feel it in your bones. And yes, you might argue that, well, Ferrari have got their own fair share of constructors' titles. They've got 16 of them. Well, in terms of those and drivers' titles, they've not won either, approaching 2 decades now. We are getting to the same gap, almost, that Michael Schumacher broke when he won his first world title with Ferrari, that gap to Jody Scheckter in 1979. Yeah, we're that close. That's how old I feel. I feel like with every single year that passes, Ferrari become more and more the underdogs, at least in terms of perception. Because when you look at the stats, they are most certainly not the underdogs. This doesn't mean that they are without error, because you got to admit, that desperate call to bring in Lewis at the end of Silverstone, it denied him a chance of a Ferrari 1-2. The first Silverstone 1-2 since Barrichello and Schumacher in 2002, 24 years ago. Their impatience got the better of them, and also Vasseur defended the move because he said, I mean, okay, I'm slightly paraphrasing, also with the accent, saying, well, if Lewis came in with soft tires, he'd be better have a chance at winning the race itself, or P2, because it's better to have soft tires at the start of a safety car launch, and, yeah, if you know, you know. What I'm trying to get at is that Ferrari are not faultless right now. They are not flawless either, but their pace is increasing bit by bit by bit, and they're pulling off enough surprises to make them in contention for wins because they now have 2 of them. This isn't like 2023 when they got that pity win in This isn't like 2023 anymore, when they got that pity win around Singapore because Red Bull decided not to bother with that race in terms of development. Their weaknesses, though, are just small enough for them to be able to ride those weaknesses with enough pace to actually win things. Whereas Mercedes' weaknesses have started to really just skew the results toward the negative spectrum for them. Because it's all well and good being quick, but when the car is brittle or the operation falls apart, what kind of toffee is that then? The old joke is that Ferrari loses races in the pits, but I think Mercedes should be getting some flack for that too, because the Ferrari joke's getting long in the tooth. Last year, despite not performing well enough on the track, off it though, Ferrari won the fastest pit stop award. That speed is carried into this year, with them currently holding the record as of the Japanese Grand Prix. As for Mercedes, their recent failures, I don't think you can attribute them to one pattern, no. They have followed several, because in Monaco, Russell received a 5-second penalty for pit lane speeding. His pit crew then worked on the car before those 5 seconds had elapsed. What could have just been a simple 5-second penalty and then maybe an opportunity to try and reverse it alongside Pierre Gasly came to the right side of George's crew operating when the left side didn't, and then when they were operating, quick, let's just do that, and then, blimey O'Reilly. An operational misjudgment. And where have we heard this before with George? Even if you're not a fan of George, you must admit, the times that we have seen Mercedes make a mistake in the pits, or in terms of judgment calls over the radio with George, They are above average, and we're starting to see some of them with Kimi too. Because let's not forget about what happened around Barcelona, and this did a lot of damage towards George's credibility. I myself fell hook, line, and sinker for it. That front wing adjuster gun or something like that. And that resulted in George's car becoming oversteery, and it left him right pickings for Kimi Antonelli. I mean, it was a miracle for George that Kimi Antonelli's car gave out, so he got second place back. But the damage was done, perceptually speaking. George looked weak in comparison to Kimi, and it was something that the deputy team principal Bradley Lord admitted to. But by then, it was too late, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. Sakir 2020. Another Mercedes pit lane procedure error cost Russell his first possible win while substituting for Lewis. Yeah, they were different circumstances, it was wrong tyres rather than a wrong ring, but the common thread is trouble arriving from around the car rather than anything to do with Russell's driving. The reliability losses have been even larger, as we saw with Russell retiring while leading in Canada with a technical failure, a battery issue which Mercedes does not expect to be properly on top of for several months because it's going to take a long time to ship back to base. Then, of course, there was Antonelli losing second place through another Mercedes technical failure. And let's not forget what happened with the wheel shield around Silverstone. The first time they came in, they didn't just simply yank it off and then went back, because when that was removed or wasn't involved, Kimi's speed picked up again. You could say that for Kimi, that was his Sakir 2020. Because Mercedes did believe that had Antonelli not been interfered, he would have eventually caught up with Charles Leclerc and then overtaken him for the win. He also had fresher tyres. Although it may not prove that Mercedes were faster over the course of the entire race, the circumstances, strategically speaking, were very much in the Italians' favour. Even Charles admitted that the circumstances, what happened there, were very much in his own favour. It would have been a fun showdown, though. But a car can't score points while being repaired. Twice. This goes beyond one defective component, I think, because this team has lost out through a retirement from the lead, a wheel shield breakage, an incorrectly served penalty, and a wrong front wing adjustment. And then, of course, let's not forget, China also produced that bizarre Q3 moment when George became stuck in first gear and the car wouldn't restart properly. They were able to reset it, and George did qualify second, but it was another issue that did flag concern. Let me make it clear, I am not claiming one shared clause behind all of these incidents. I bet Mercedes wish that were the case, but it's not. And that's precisely the point, because each problem points to a completely different scenario or a subsection of the car. You fix one problem, but one problem may still be there, or over the course of a season, another problem may come along. Which is why we are starting to see Toto getting a little bit hot under the collar and starting to talk about maybe not chasing performance. Maybe that might explain why they're choosing Mercedes not to take up their ADO upgrade for this year, because if they upgrade something, it might yield yet more problems. You never know. So really, in this situation, what does Mercedes tackle first? And that sort of pressure can remain hidden somewhat if they had the kind of advantage they had at the beginning of the year, when it was just a case of, well, I mean, yeah, Ferrari have got their fast starts, but the Mercedes catches them up eventually, you know. And as for the McLarens and the Red Bulls, oh, forget those. But no, we are seeing advantages now of maybe 3/10 at most, or even 2/10. And around Silverstone, a track where Ferrari expected to struggle, they didn't struggle. The same problems that befell them at the beginning of the year, which weren't a real major concern, are now very major and real concerns. Ferrari have tightened the gap successfully. And if the reports are led to be believed for Belgium, they could be even closer, or maybe matching, or maybe better than Mercedes. Antonelli's gap was one time 65, it's now 25, with Hamilton just 32 behind. And he was behind Verstappen in 2021, and look how that got down to the wire in Abu Dhabi. And I think Russell's become the natural target for some of the frustration, because his misfortune often arrives with an explanation attached. After Monaco, he told the race he doesn't really believe in good luck or bad luck, then listed the season like a man reading out charges. Leading in Canada, breakdown. Leading in Japan, safety car 10 seconds after his stop, and then, his words, I've never had a run of bad luck like this. My suspicion, Russell can sound as though he's presenting a case when he's angry. Whether or not it's unnecessary anger, I'll let you be the judge of that. Yeah, that might be unfair, but that's the reaction I've seen. Antonelli gets a softer reading because his mistakes look like teenage mistakes, and 5 wins on the bounce, that buys a lot of patience. It's not every day you get a driver of any age winning 5 on the trot, let alone a teenager. And Ferrari, I think, offers something bigger emotionally. Hamilton's Barcelona win, that was his first win for Ferrari, and the first non-Mercedes Grand Prix victory of the year. And as you may recall, it was all that we could talk about. Then Leclerc won last time out. after Ferrari had spent the build-up expecting the circuit to expose them, those wins gave two very different groups of supporters a reason to believe. And here's where the technical story hands me the number I just can't get out of my head. Racing News 365's comparison of Hamilton and Antonelli's SQ3 laps found the W17 spending almost 2 seconds more in clipping during the lap, the phase where the hybrid system is recharging instead of pushing. In short, Ferrari were more efficient than Mercedes on the day. And Wolff didn't hide from this either. When he was asked about this at Silverstone, he said about Ferrari's form this for your consideration. We need to look at ourselves. They said before the weekend that they're going to be lacking energy over this track, and they haven't. They're a strong competitor, and it's expected now for the rest of the season. Yeah. Mercedes were very much thrown for a loop here based on this. They knew what the weak area of the Ferrari was, but Ferrari instead here used their chassis efficiency to shrink the power unit's disadvantage, and it helps that they have a legal route to attack that weakness directly. I mean, courtesy of the ADUO, but we all know about that right now. It's being contested by Red Bull. I'm not going to bore you about the details. In short, Ferrari have two opportunities this year to upgrade their engine. They used their first one at Austria, to very little fanfare, but they've still got one more up their sleeves in the next few races. And it might be one that their customers might use too, so it could have an impact further down the grid too. Although the reporting around it's not quite sure what this upgrade will be. But one thing is for sure, that Macarena wing of theirs, they're not done with it yet. Because according to Auto Racer, their reports suggest the new turbo will be ready in time for the Madrid Grand Prix within 5 races' time. Other reports float Zandvoort or Monza. Ferrari, though, they haven't confirmed anything, but come on. It's Monza. You know they'll want it there. A third win at that circuit for Charles Leclerc? Or Lewis's first Italian Grand Prix in red? Come on. Either way, Ferrari's next major step is expected around that part of the calendar where the European leg ends and we get into the final flyaway events, where straight line efficiency, especially around Baku, becomes brutally visible. May I remind you, thanks to Max Verstappen making good use of his newfound attention, we were all bricking it around Silverstone, thinking how bad this track will be for the regulations. And we're thinking similar things regarding Monza and even Baku, what with their longer straight. I mean, one thing is for sure, even with the tweaks, Miami exposed this difference horribly. And Ferrari, what with their new Macarena wing that they debuted, their 11-point package, it came up with absolutely butt-kiss. Ferrari put all of that on the car, and it still did them nothing. In fact, they weren't even in contention for the podium. Yeah, the championship looked very one-sided, even though it was probably the most normal weekend of the year at the time. Right now, I think many, including Alonso, we're all just bored. It's faultless and futile to just complain about the regulations all the time, especially since next year they'll be changing, so let's just focus on the title itself, because it is going to be a humdinger. And I think one reason why is because, as I mentioned earlier, Mercedes have been rewarded an ADU upgrade and they're choosing not to take it, instead making themselves more dependable rather than potent, because in their minds, and at some tracks, their deployment package may be the best. That might not necessarily be the case. It may be fast, but is it efficient like Ferrari's right now? Maybe not. Maybe aero might be the way to go when this racing regulations package refines itself through convergence. And yes, Mercedes did also introduce revised battery hardware around Austria as part of the attempt to address earlier problems, but that doesn't prove every reliability concern is gone. They may have solved their electrical concerns and remain quicker, but Ferrari may reduce the gap before their fixes restore full confidence across the whole car, which may explain why Toto has shed some light on why Ferrari's upgrading all the time. And then, of course, there's the rotating rear wing. That Macarena wing rotates in an unusual way to reduce drag in straight modes, and the FIA reportedly gave the concept an initial approval before it raced, Ferrari originally targeting China, but ultimately introduced it in Miami, and to this date, they have not suffered a publicly reported failure with it. Yet, they have been dragged into the conversation regarding rotating rear wings simply for the fact that Red Bull has had 2 high-profile accidents with those in 8 days. And yes, of course, we all got the foam of doubt upon finding out that Ferrari was involved in that, thinking, well, their concept is the most complete, it's the most developed, and they've not had a single accident with it in a Grand Prix weekend up until this point. But yeah, upon thinking about this over the weekend, my best guess is that maybe Ferrari have been brought in because they're the cleanest comparison to Red Bull, so instead of them being punished, they may be used as an example, as in the FIA goes, well, see, Ferrari can make this work, why can't you make it work? So it might either lead to a consolidation where Ferrari's concept is the only concept you can use if you wish to make a Macarena wing, or it might lead to some safety concessions. The FIA has also made it clear they don't necessarily want to ban this technology yet. But, we all have our spanners and foams regarding this kind of stuff. Let's not forget, McLaren have also explored a rotating rear wing. Their design reportedly hadn't been considered ready to race after internal checks. I'm not necessarily claiming McLaren are actively lobbying to have Ferrari systems banned, but, the whole idea of can't build it, ban it, and all the stuff they said during preseason testing regarding start line procedures and safety grounds, yeah, that still is in the back of my mind. And then there's Ferrari's exhaust wing idea. That's already been outlawed for 2027. The race then reported that Ferrari tested without it on the day the future ban became official. Based on technical reporting, the device generates useful rear load whilst creating an energy efficiency trade-off through the exhaust arrangement.
Hey guys, Disney's Descendants Wicked Wonderland is taking you on a journey down the rabbit hole. Welcome to my Wonderland!
We're gonna defeat Maddox. You gotta think like a villain.
Premieres July 16th on Disney Channel. Next day on Disney Plus. DisneyPlus.com/what's-on.
Many engineering and aerodynamic analysis out there suggest that the trade-off is, good rear-end grip, but at the cost of engine horsepower between 8 or 10 or something like that. But it is a choice that Ferrari can make and may choose to make for the rest of the season. Do you go for more grip or do you go for more grunt? Because you can make use of this technology, but if you're going to be developing this car in mind for next year, where that technology is not going to be available to you, you've got to prioritize. And even though many of us are believing that this is just a case of the FIA getting in the way and stifling innovation of Ferrari, there is just an element of developmental costs and safety concerns, etc., that do make it a little bit of a mixed bag. But what does make this further complication even more interesting is that we do have to remember what Toto Wolff said regarding the spending, or the perceived spending that Ferrari has been doing with their upgrades, because according to ESPN, Ferrari at this point have brought 32 different upgrades in comparison to McLaren and Mercedes, who have only produced around half of that. So let's not forget what Toto said for your consideration. It's just Ferrari who seems to be limitless in this way. They must have started development 6 months ago. Same rules for everyone, hopefully. He also quipped here that Ferrari should be running out of money soon, and Vasseur pushed back hard here on the implication attached to Ferrari's program, because it's like, what are you trying to say, Toto? Are you trying to get the FIA to look into this? As in, cost cap breach, anybody? I mean, I can't prove for sure that there's psychological pressure going on here, but it really wouldn't surprise me, this being Toto, or the stuff that he played with Christian Horner back in the day. And I don't think Toto would waste breath on saying stuff like this if he didn't actually believe it himself. Because Ferrari, kicking on like this, have made Mercedes have to explain themselves just that little bit more in terms of, why is their car so fragile? Why are they making these mistakes? How can Kimi Antonelli go from winning 5 races in a row to now it being a minor miracle if he finishes a race at all? And it might make them reconsider assumptions that they might have had with Ferrari's car at certain circuits, and maybe think that they could be a threat at almost any circuit here. So we've really got to bring our A game to every single one of them. Again, if that Spa upgrade to the Macarena wing is anything led to be believed, that could actually increase considerably the top-line speed of the Ferrari SF26, and by then, this could make this car a real threat, or maybe the best car. And let's not forget, Ferrari have been absolutely bulletproof in comparison. Lewis Hamilton, I think, has completed every single Grand Prix this season, and I think he's the only one now to have done so. Yeah, I can't prove that every single Grand Prix will be Ferraris for the taking, but Silverstone was meant to be not one of those, but look what happened there. The gap in the constructors still remains large, and Ferrari needs to gain an average of 6 points per round against Mercedes to close it. It is possible, though. McLaren overturned a larger mid-season deficit to Red Bull a couple of years ago before winning their first Constructors' title since 1998. A large lead can collapse when one team's development and execution move in opposite directions. Mercedes still hold the lead, but do they control it right now? I don't think so. That's harder to assert these days, for sure, especially when their two drivers may eventually fight each other and Ferrari can remove wins and points from both of them accordingly. What happened around Barcelona, even though George was afflicted by an oversteery car, Antonelli was feisty. This is going to break out over the course of the season. There are still 13 rounds to go, people, and Hamilton is only 7 points behind Russell. He could easily capitalize on the fact that Kimi and George will take points away from one another, or the W17 goes bang, or there's a mistake in the pit lane. And then Lewis and then eventually Charles could then capitalize on that and then bring in the bacon for Ferrari and bring them ever closer to maybe getting at least one championship trophy this year. In any case, either Ferrari winning will hurt the entire Mercedes hold badly. That's why I think Ferrari feel like the heroes right now, because they're preventing the quickest overall package from actually dominating this season through multiple sources of mistakes and errors and misfortunes. And maybe a little bit of, overassumption and arrogance. I mean, there are still things that could reasonably happen, of course. I mean, Antonelli could still win the title and be a pretty popular champion. Russell could come back from the dead and then take the championship from Antonelli, and those who are detracting him or maybe not his biggest supporters might reluctantly respect his achievement in being able to come back from that. And of course, Ferrari might be on good form right now, but they might pull off some more wasteful opportunities like they did around Silverstone, and that can cost them points, because if they hadn't pulled that maneuver, and they knew that the car was going to finish behind the safety car, now Lewis would only be 29 points behind Antonelli, and 1 point can make a difference. But what I keep coming back to is that Silverstone pit lane. Antonelli's car up on the jacks with a broken wheel shield, mechanics swarming it for the second time, not far away from a crew that was able to change 4 tyres in 2 seconds flat around Suzuka, standing ready with nothing to fix. Right now, the fastest car in F1 is busy being repaired, whilst the second fastest one is busy being sharpened. And I think you should keep your eyes sharp for this video over here, which has suddenly appeared, conveniently pointing you to yet more.
So in the past, I've made a few videos about people attempting to scam in a very interesting way. Basically, somebody listing a relatively cheap item for really expensive, preying on people that have a lot of coins in the purse, and their auctions are filtered to highest price first, when they actually think that it's on lowest. Maybe it's somebody listing a livid dagger for 700 million coins instead of 7 million, people not really thinking too much, having a ton of coins in the purse, and just buying the first thing that comes up. Now, I've always been a little bit on the fence as to whether I should call this a scam or not, because in reality, the people who list these items are doing it on purpose. They know what they're doing, but at the same time, it's kind of on the person who's bought it to check how much the item that they're actually buying costs. But you know what? The nail is in the coffin. This is a scam, and the people doing it are pretty scummy. And I can say that freely now because HYPIXEL have actually confirmed this is straight up a scam. Now, relatively recently, we got this update which made Susan stand over here in the community hub. It's all about keeping your account safe and so on. Now, when you go through this quest, you'll end up in the security hall, and you end up sitting in this chair for a pretty long period of time. Actually, you know what? I'm going to switch on to my other profile so I can actually show you what I'm talking about. You should be grateful that I'm doing this because this is going to take a while. I'm not going to show you how to do the quest, it's just a lot of clicking the green answer, but I'll get to the point what I'm talking about. You see what I mean about sat of the chair? Honestly, it kind of sounds like Bridget's being a bit condescending and is like a really toxic CS teammate. It's very important that you do things to keep yourself very safe. Keep yourself as safe as possible, okay? And then you get locked away in the jail. And then Jimmy tries to scam you. Here we go, right here, right? Bridget, some people will set frequently used items up for auctions at a high price, hoping that someone accidentally clicks on them. This is literally the exact scam that I've showcased, well, not showcased as if it's a great thing, but I mean, I've tried to raise awareness of quite a few times now. So I've always been a bit borderline as to if it's a scam or not, but there are many other forms of these scams, and then it goes on to list it, so it definitely is a scam. Now, we'll take a look at some examples in just a moment once I've gone through this whole quest line. And there's something also pretty interesting we must talk about at the end. Anyway, before we do go any further, if you are planning on purchasing anything from the HYPIXEL store, make sure to use code NITROS. It gets yourself 5% off. Also, if you are planning on purchasing Hightail, you can use the same creator code. It doesn't get you a discount, but it would help me out a lot. If you watch the videos and you haven't subscribed, please make sure to do so. You should join the Discord server, it's linked in the description of this video. We offer slayers and dungeon carries, so if you need carries or want to carry and make some coins, make sure to join. Now, if you literally just go onto the auction house, it's pretty obvious the people that are trying to do this scam. Make sure you're filtered to highest price and literally just go to tool and miscellaneous, and there's always ridiculously high priced items here. For example, like this Lucky Clover core. For 2.8 billion coins, and then there's one here which is an EXP share, which is ironically the same person listing it for 2 billion coins. If we then do a quick search on that username, you can see that they have a ton of different items that are listed for way more expensive than they should be, hoping that basically they just catch people out. For example, this potion here regularly sells for about 10 million coins, 1.15 billion. HYPIXEL upgrade that regularly sells for between 250 and 300k, 295 mil. And you can see all the other attempts at the same time. For example, Matriarch's Perfume that nobody fell for, HYPIXEL, Shiniest Antique Remedies. Now, a lot of other people that I've kind of looked through the auctions when I've seen they're doing this literally just list straight up scam items. This person doesn't seem to just be listing scam items. He's selling a lot of legitimate stuff at the same time. However, you do see the odd Antique Remedies for 255 mil. A voodoo doll for 1.9 billion. Like, imagine how distraught you'd be if you'd accidentally bought that. Mithril Golem for 102 mil. Oh, and another one. All I'm saying is you guys need to be really wary of this, because this is, I mean, it's so easy to come across. I literally just walked up to the auction house, and the first page that I had on, which was on Tools and Miscellaneous, and you know, with the standard filter, which is highest price, and you instantly see it right there. You instantly see it right there. And you see it again right here. 2 billion coins for a Prospector's Diamond Pickaxe. I don't know who's going to click on this. But when you dig a bit deeper, you can see they also have a Runin's Bow listed for 2.8 bill. I mean, this guy doesn't look to be on the scale of some of the other people that I've seen, but he's still trying it. He's still either trying to scam someone, and the only other explanation for this is that you're listing these items up for a ridiculously high price because you're IRL trading. I don't think that's what's going on. I think he's trying to scam someone. Same thing again here. God Potion listed for 1.7 billion coins. And when you actually look at their auctions, they've got two listed for practically 1.7 bill. And then you realise, yesterday they actually managed to sell one for 1.6 billion coins. This is not isolated. There are so many people trying to catch you out. It's unreal. Like, just look at how many people, how many different people have got these God Potions listed for 1.6 billion coins. One of the other people who had a God Pot listed for 1.65, just look at their auctions. They also currently have a Remnant of the Eye for 300 mil, Mithril Coat for 450, Recluse Fang 380 mil, a Pocket Black Hole 480. Like, none of these have sold, but let's just have a quick look and see if any have. Because my guess is they've got at least one sale. Yeah, here we go. Pocket Black Hole 450 mil. I assume people list these out of speculation to try and catch people out and scam people, and then when something actually sells, that's when they ramp it up. I mean, that makes sense. If you just randomly got a free 450 mil, you're probably inclined to try it again. Here we go again, Recluse Fang, 250 million coins. Like, you can dress it up however you want, but they're scamming. It's a scam. But yeah, Recluse Fang, 300k. It's crazy. But here's the biggest issue, if I'm being completely honest. HYPIXEL now gave us undeniable proof that this is definitely a scam. 100% it's a scam. It's literally stated in that quest line. HYPIXEL obviously doesn't condone scamming. It's not allowed. Yet at the same time, I don't know if you guys have watched something like that's relatively recent video, but he got scammed out of, I believe, like a 30 billion coin item. And even with undeniable straight up proof that this is a scam and he got scammed, HYPIXEL say they can't really do anything about it. Now, if a YouTube rank has been scammed out of 30 billion coins and they're not going to basically take any action on that, there is absolutely no chance if you get scammed out of 1 billion coins of something on the AH that you're ever going to be reimbursed. Now, I understand there's scams like this going on every single day, way too many to keep up with, right? But at this point, it kind of feels like scamming is just straight up allowed, considering you can go onto the AH and you can see that people are just straight up trying it. They're straight up trying 3 billion coin scams on the first page. Now, I've always said this, but why do items not have price caps? Items should have price caps. It might be a bit of work to keep on top of in case, you know, the price actually exceeds the actual price cap. It might be a bit of extra work, but at least it would pretty much erase these scams. And just from the couple of videos that I've made about this scam before, we've already observed hundreds of billions of coins being scammed, which is just really not on, especially when it's traceable and on the AH. So what I'm trying to say is you need to be really careful in the auction house, because even though it seems like a safe place to trade and buy and sell items, the reality is, we can quite clearly see, it's not that safe. And I can almost guarantee if you do get scammed on the auction house, that's going to be it. Your money is lost forever. That is going to be all for today's video. Let me know in the comments if you've ever been scammed this way, because I think a surprising amount of people probably will have been. That's all for today. If you have enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.
Welcome to the Lifesteal SMP, a server where players can kill each other to steal a permanent part. Every year, the server restarts, bringing about new teams, deadly players, and devious traps. Storylines develop, and day one is by far the most exciting, impactful, and important day of the server. And this season is just by far and away the best start I've ever had. Like, dude, I go freaking crazy in this video. Season 6, I joined late, didn't kill anybody. Season 7, I stole all the nether warts. Season 8, oh boy, you are in for a treat. On the server, there's a hard-coded limit of 1 mace on the server, the most powerful weapon in Minecraft. And so everybody on the server is speedrunning this thing. My plan is to take advantage of this. There's 2 ways to win a fight. Be better at them in PvP or have a better strategy. We are going to get invisibility potions and rock up to people within the first hour of the server completely invisible. You do not understand how broken this is. I'm going to be locked and loaded to absolutely dominate this server.
Begin.
Now, as everybody else leaves, I decide to mine my first tree and beeline iron. I need to be the first person into the nether.
Let's go. Let's freaking go. Let's go, Youngie. Let's freaking go.
Bro, this is our season.
Now, before we get any further, I'm gonna get in the nether quickly. I gotta introduce you to the team.
Let's take a screen.
Let me introduce you to the Tricky Trio, my new team for Lifesteal Season 8. And let me tell you, when this is a banger team, it's a banger team. Luigi Twan, a renowned trapper I've never teamed with, but kind of an S-tier player. Youngie, the person last season who killed me more times than anybody else, and one of the best high ping players I've ever seen. And myself, me, Parker, RecRap 2. We call ourselves the Tricky Trio. And this season, oh boy, do we have some tricks for the server.
I'm going to get the pigs, and then I'm going for iron. If you want to follow me, Youngie.
Yeah, I'm
you're
with
going
you.
for iron?
I'm with you all the way. Rec, I also have a secret to share with you once we're in private.
I wonder if
Oh
I'll ever get
shoot,
iron.
a secret?
Unless we can trust Jojo, I don't know.
Ooh, oh, I see. Yeah, Jojo's a little sus sometimes.
Yeah, don't trust me, bro. Don't trust me. I see so much right now.
If you're wondering why nobody's fighting each other, it's because there's a 1-hour grace period, which, by the way, makes the first hour that much more important.
Okay, Rec, I'm gonna tell you my secret, okay?
Okay, what's the secret?
Rec, I'm on 19 hearts right now.
What? No, you're kidding. You're kidding. No, you're joking. Bro, you're joking.
When Spongs joined the server, he immediately withdrew 9 and gave them all to me. I'm not
No, there's no way.
I swear.
Dude, what? What?
I swear, bro.
That's insane. That's broken. That's broken.
I know.
Oh my gosh, bro. What we do? What? All right, you're a PvP here. You're a PvP here. Wait, we need to get Luigi here. Where's Luigi go?
Okay, mate, I'm gonna message him codes.
I'm gonna start smelting up this iron. And then if we can get sugarcane, there's like a good cave here. So like we can just like insta rush caves.
There is actually no food. We're gonna starve.
No. I have 3 pork. I have 3 pork. Don't worry.
Okay.
See, this is why I wanted to go to the mountain. There's just an abundance of iron.
An abundance of loot.
An abundance of loot, you might say. Hi, Lopez. I don't hear you.
Oh. It's not reciprocal, I get it. No, I get it.
Sorry, it just seemed like a funny joke at the time. Yo, do you see any iron, Youngie?
Yes, I see some.
Go ahead, Parker. I hear his mouse.
Oh, hi.
Bro,
Do you hear my mouse?
I heard the mouse.
I can hear
The
the
way
drag
you click, I
clicks.
heard it. It was so majestic.
Direct, you got me with a piece of pork, perhaps?
Yeah. Here, come over here. Take a piece of pork. Here, let's go to the savannah.
cheers,
Let's pick up some more pork. I kind of want to go down into the mines here, but we need more iron or more food first. Nice. It would be awesome if we could be the first in the nether.
Yeah.
Which I think we have a shot at, but I wanna play a little safe.
So many animals over here. Do you see these?
Yeah. Here, I'll get the animals. You get the report. Oh my gosh, this cave is insane, bro.
Yeah, that looks right.
Y'all keep it down up there. I'm trying to commentate.
I got you.
Yeah, stop giggling up there, rectum.
I literally was saying nothing, bro.
Sure, you little giggler up there.
Hey, I don't mind being a giggler. Giggling is fun, bro.
How you doing, Rec?
I'm doing well. Just kind of gearing up, snagging some food. I got a hungry teammate to feed.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
Your teammate would have happened to be.
What? Luigi just died? Youngie, where are you? I gotten separated. Youngie, where are you? Where's my boy? Oh
my gosh, it's a wild Minute tech. Hi, Minute.
Oh, hello. Who's there?
What's up?
Oh, is it you, Rec?
It's me. Just passing through.
Hey, Rec.
How you doing?
Yep. Apocalypse forever.
Apocalypse forever. I need sugar cane. He's at negative. What? Okay, I'm gonna make a group.
Yo.
Yo.
Did you see Luigi died, bro?
Dude, I did. It's so bad, bro. It's so bad.
Okay,
Have you gotten a
all my
book
iron.
yet?
I've like. No, I have so much leather. I don't have any sugarcane though. Like,
Yeah, I
just
don't
need
either.
water. That's the
Should we
problem.
just like go without a book, or should we? I don't know
We
what the
could. I
game
mean, how
plan is.
vital are enchants? Like, do we really
Not
need
like
enchants that
super.
deeply?
I mean, it would just be nice to get like have a little bit of protection. But maybe we do just send it because they kind of reduced the river count on this world. You know what I mean?
I say we send it, and while it's turning nighttime, we can search for a lava pool.
Dude,
and
I'm
get
at a lava
spider
pool.
eyes
I'm
too
at a lava
for
pool.
invis.
Legit. Should I go in?
Perfect. Okay, give me codes.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
Loki,
okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna start
I
coming
don't want to talk
I have,
about it earlier.
Dude, Luigi, how did you die?
It's okay.
It's a spear. The spear. They're literally walking towards me. I hate the spear. Why is the spear so much damage? He's just walking towards.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Right, I can work my 9 hearts.
Oh wait, Luigi, I haven't told you. I have 19 hearts, by the way.
What?
Did you not hear what I just said?
You didn't hear. Say it again.
Luigi, I have 19 hearts.
Wait, what?
When Spongs logged in, he immediately did /withdraw 9 and just dropped them to me. I swear.
Wait, my chat wasn't lying. I thought that was like as a joke. I was like, oh, he's at 19 hearts because he's gonna get like what?
Yeah.
Oh my
bro,
god,
it's
dumb
actually
Spongs.
insane. It's actually insane. Here, come to
Okay, Rick, I'm
the
setting
portal.
to you.
Like, should I just enter? I should probably just enter, see if there's anything like
Yeah,
immediately close.
I agree.
Okay, basalt. Dude, I legit might be the first person in the nether.
That's good. I just realized there's no advancements in chat too. No one will know how we're moving, like at all.
Yeah.
That's so
I see a
good.
fortress. Should I rush
Nice,
it?
okay.
Nice.
Go, rush it. Be super careful. Realistically, we get these mats and we just get out instantly, bro.
Okay. Here, I'm gonna re-give you guys the cords. I don't think I gave you exact cords, Yangi. It's in a cave. It's like a little out of the way. Cords are like at the entrance to the cave, like 20 blocks away from the lava pool. Okay.
Okay, but restarting. Oh, okay, that's fine.
Dude, we're cranking. This is good. We're gonna be the first ones in the nether. We're gonna rush netherwarts. Like, I see the fort. We're gonna get in, get out.
Should I not get any diamond gear? Because I'm pretty deep in the cave right now.
Oh, like, go ahead, get diamond gear if you want. Okay, it's okay. Let's chill.
I have 19 iron right now.
I have an iron chest plate.
We're gonna be chilling.
Dude, it's gonna be so good. This is like the most awesome way to start the server, bro. We're gonna get this in legit like 20 minutes, bro. Like, we're cranking.
Dude, we can now advance this run. That's the scary part. People are gonna know we have parts, but
oh
like,
shoot,
they can't see us anyway, bro. What are they gonna do?
Nothing, bro.
Okay.
Yo, a terrible fortress. People know.
Oh.
Nether wart acquired.
Nice. Okay.
Blazes are gonna be the main thing. So yeah, if you could get here, Youngie, with that extra iron, we can make some armor. I have a shield and a chest plate, but like, not a whole ton else. You know what I mean?
Do you guys have food?
Yeah. Blaze spawner spotted. I just want to be like so careful.
Okay, there was low-key a glitch with the plugin, and the server reset everyone's hearts back to 10. So I need to go back and collect from spawns.
Okay. Luigi, do you want to come to the nether with me then?
I do live a heart, so
Oh wait, how many hearts are on Luigi now? You back
I'm
at
at 10. Yeah.
Don't say a word, bro. Don't say a word. Dude, I already told the glitch anyway, so hopefully they'll fix it. Okay. Are you heading to wreck now, Luigi? Here's some blues, perhaps.
Oh shoot, I think I'm dead. Ooh! Okay. I'm taking a chill pill. I have 3 rods. Bro, this is so scary.
There are no mobs spawning at all, so we're gonna have to get very lucky for spider eyes. Yo, what situation you in?
A scary one, bro. Why is the server so laggy too? Oh my gosh, bro. Dude, there's 7 blazes!
Yo, please be careful, Rick. Please be careful.
Okay, I'm backing up. I'm retreating.
Please.
Dude, that's insane. Okay, I'm gonna explore like the rest of the fortress, maybe. Like, I just really don't want to die, you know what I mean? And I got no support from you guys.
Oh,
Scared as I was, I only had 3 blaze rods. That would not work for our plan. We needed more. Oh my gosh.